This is Midday Sunday. We've been talking, at least in the first half of the program, about elephants and new concerns about their care. Our guests today are Madeline Bernstein. She is the president of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals here in Los Angeles, and the Honorable Paul Koretz, representing the 5th District Council Person District here in Los Angeles. You wanted to, before we move on to other things, you had a couple of extra thoughts about elephants?
Yeah, well, first of all, the space, although it's larger than it was, because it's been segmented so much at the zoo, it really doesn't give the extra exercise space. And I think part of that is because they want this to be a captive breeding program, which I don't think is of great value, to be honest. I think if they insist on keeping an exhibit, it should be only female elephants, because the males and females don't interact. Open up the whole thing so there's more space, and let Billy get out of it. I mean, they kind of torture him when they take his sperm for the captive breeding program. It's very invasive, and he's had a very unpleasant time being by himself for all those years. Right. So at a minimum, we need to do that. If not, send all the elephants to a sanctuary and let some other animal be in that space.
All right, we'll leave that for a future program and future bureaucrats and future activists. You are also noteworthy these days in terms of animal issues for increasing the number of cats that Angelinos can have legally in their homes.
We are trying to do that. There's a legal battle that we've had in terms of trying to spay and neuter feral cats with folks that are on the side of birds. Now, we think we're on their side too. But they have actually sued us and prevented us from spaying and neutering feral cats because they think they'll still be out there harming birds. So as a result, as counterintuitive as it is, we believe we have many more feral cats that are multiplying quickly because we're being sued by the bird people. And the bird people feel that if we have more cats in our homes, even though they're supposed to be indoor cats, that they'll get out and they'll multiply and they'll kill birds.
It's currently 3 cats?
Currently 3 cats.
And you're talking about increasing it to 5?
We've been talking about increasing it to 5 with a special permit for greater than 5.
Does this make sense?
Well, this is what happened. There's a thing called TNR, which is trap, neuter, and release. And it's one of the methods that people deal with feral cats. These cats are not real viable to be household pets. They're used to being on the streets. So typically what we would do is trap those cats, neuter them, mark them, treat them, deflea them, deworm them, and then put them back out on the street. And this is really pretty common across the country. Now, you have to be sensitive to environmental issues because you wouldn't want to do that in wetlands or in Hawaii when they're on an island. They're losing endangered species, for non-native cats roaming the streets. So in Los Angeles, they were enjoined from using any city funds for any part of the problem, whether it's the trap, neuter, and release, spaying, neutering these feral cats.
How much money are we talking about here?
Well, the issue was that the city did not do an environmental impact study before they did the trap, neuter, and release thing. And so basically they said until they do this study, they're enjoined. And I guess at some point, I mean, this is sort of out of my area, but some study was done and there was a negative declaration, but that doesn't seem to be enough to have the injunction lifted.
And this is an ongoing legal battle. None of it really makes sense, because what's the negative environmental result of having feral cats spayed and neutered and reproducing less? But nevertheless, that's what we've been enjoined from, and we're having that ongoing battle. So that issue is a sidelight in the effort to increase the number of cats in people's homes so they can be adopted out of the shelters rather than being euthanized.
So the question of, and there are other issues just on that, so the question of should people be able to have a clowder of cats, which is a word that all of Los Angeles learned this year. Clowder, C-L-O-W-D-E-R, is the technical term for a group of cats. And so the
larger
issue,
than 3, larger than 5, larger than something.
Larger, larger than a few, right? And so from SPCLA's perspective, there are some people who shouldn't be allowed to have one cat, right? And there are some people who certainly can handle a clouder or more. So our position on this, really, we're not involved in the T&R piece. We're not part of your lawsuit troubles with that. Our issue is make sure that all the cats are altered before they're put into this clouder. Make sure that all cats are indoor cats, because you can't even gauge the accuracy of a T&R cat population program or a community cat program until you at least remove the owned animals off the streets. Because how do I know if your cat is just out on a walk, your cat is a community cat, or your cat is lost and about to become a feral cat? And who am I spending my resources rehoming? A cat that has a home and has just been let out and lost, or a cat who really needs a home? So it's an issue that needs thought.
And it seems to me that cat owners are very passionate about their pets.
That's certainly true. That's certainly true. And the bird folks are very passionate too. And we're not really at odds. What we're trying to do is actually reduce the number of feral cats, reduce the number of cats in our shelters being euthanized, and that would presumably help the bird population as well. So we think we're all on the same page. We just don't know how to get the Audubon Society and some of their folks on the same page.
But if we're left to the world as a natural state, the survival of the fittest, wouldn't this take care of itself on its own?
Well, with coyotes and other animals that are also around, you would think so. But the problem is we've tampered an awful lot in the natural state, and so I'm not sure. I mean, there's other issues. There's other states, like in Oregon, where the Audubon Society and the cat people have gotten together and formed these eco-friendly yards. But you also have the vector control people for a lot of the counties.
And that sort of
well,
thing.
the flea-borne diseases that come off the feral cats that they want to deal with. So what we're actually trying to do, I mean, you wouldn't know about this, but we're trying to get a group together of the vector people, the Audubon people, the cat people, the people who believe in community cat concept, or the people who believe in not, all sitting at the table to figure out how we can get along.
Well, we're speaking of getting along and being peaceful. Let's take one more break. Let's do that now.